computer. Okay, so now we are recording. So yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. So hello everybody. We have a very special guest on the podcast. I say this at the start of every podcast, but this one is different. Actually, the person that I have on today is Melissa Hiemann, and I know Melissa from the past from doing some of the courses that she teaches that she has created. So I'm going to let you explain a little bit, but I am going to give you a quick introduction. And Melissa is the co-founder of the Center of Healing with Ryan, who is her husband, I believe. Is that correct? Are you married? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you have a young boy now as well.
Or partner. We're not.
Okay. Yeah. And
yeah.
you have a young boy who's entered the world recently who looks like a ball of fun. And so you are the co-founder of the Center of Healing, and you are also the creator of root cause therapy. And I forget where I found you and I found this idea, but as you know, you and I both have a background in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And when I came across this new type of therapy, I'm always very intrigued. I think therapy is very powerful for us as human beings. And I love the different tool. I love having different tools in my kit, because I don't think there's any one tool that works for every issue and every person. So I think the more things we have, we can kind of use them. And I'm just going to put a full disclaimer out there, which is that I actually did take your course, and I went through the program myself, and it was absolutely incredible. Sometimes you don't know, because I think I just found you online and I signed up because I'm a keener, but it really was awesome. But I'm not gonna butcher it here by trying to explain what it is exactly. So first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast and spending your valuable time. I know you're on the other side of the world, so the sun is setting here, but I think it's rising where you are. But thank you for coming on, and tell us a little bit about maybe root cause therapy, and then as well, if you want, about the Center of Healing also.
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for having me on. Like I said before, I was so excited when you asked me. Root cause therapy. So basically what it is it's accessing parts of your mind or the root cause of your current symptoms. So symptoms are, negative emotions, behaviors that don't serve us, negative thought patterns. And so basically what it is, it's a way for us to access our clients' databases, or help them access it, and start healing those root causes of why they have those patterns or life patterns and things like that. So it's kind of like a mixture of guided meditation, there's emotional release, breath work, there's inner child. And it's basically, from the feedback that I get, you go very deep in terms of not your consciousness, but in terms of where issues have started in your life, or moments that have changed you that are still affecting you today. So we say traumas, but they could just be little events as well. So there's a lot of working on the past and those root causes, which could be in our DNA. It could be from when we're in the womb and our mum was upset, or especially ages 0 to 7, where we're really having the foundations of how we see ourselves and how we see the world. And then we also do a little bit of future work as well, and accessing and seeing our future, or we have negative goals in the future and kind of shifting those. And the whole thing is about you being able to be present and peaceful in the moment, because we have a certain amount of energy, and if we spend all of our time kind of thinking about the past or worried about the future, then we're not in the present moment. So it's all about resolving as much as we can, so we can come back to being peaceful and present in the moment.
Yeah, that's and it's hey, just quickly explain this whole thing, and it's it's an impossible task. And I'm just going to say now, I usually say it towards the end, but it really is incredible, and I highly recommend for anyone. We'll share later at the end of the podcast where to learn more about this, just because it's going to be hard for us to get the whole thing across here. And I don't want to put you on the spot for an hour straight where you're just explaining this whole thing. We can actually have a bit of a conversation about it. A couple things that I want to mention that I found interesting with going through the program myself. First of all, I just want to say in a past episode on here, I actually talk about, there's a gentleman who came on and he kind of just has a platform to talk to people who are recovering from addiction and this kind of thing. And when I was talking to him, I always mentioned to people about how trauma doesn't necessarily have to be this big, huge thing. You know, we can experience something that it doesn't necessarily have to be massive. And a lot of us experience multiple different types of traumas over the course of our lives. And I'm pretty sure I learned that from you originally. And I just remember that was a really powerful piece of advice that I had learned. I think my sister actually told me that once too, but I remember that really stuck with me when I heard that. So I just you just kind of said that. So, and then I was like, wait, I think I stole that in an episode already. You're probably going to hear me and you're going to send me an email. The other thing
it's good. You're getting the information out there.
I always have to say, I just have to give credit to about 30 people from anyone like who has a program like yours up to Tony Robbins, because I've learned so much in the last few years. I don't remember where I picked it up from, but I always try to give credit where due, but things just come out of my mouth. And sometimes I think I made them up when definitely isn't the case, but
no, but that's a good sign. That means that you've taken the information in, you've discerned and embodied it, and then it becomes your truth. And then it does become you and your wisdom. So don't feel like you need to give credit if you are embodying it and it feels like truth for you, because everyone needs that information.
I like that. Okay. That makes me feel better about it. Now, in terms of the whole process, and we won't go too deep into it because it's very well explained in, like, I remember when I wasn't sure, I don't know who Melissa is. I don't know what this program's about. Do I want to spend this money and sign up? But you're very thorough and in explaining everything, and you have the videos. And I remember going through that, and explains everything in a perfect way, as opposed to me trying to do it here. But one of the things with NLP and neuro-linguistic programming, which is also very unique and difficult to explain to people sometimes, but sometimes there is a part in that, which is hypnosis. Sometimes you put people you work with people in hypnosis. And I've always known from the start, just knowing myself, that's kind of been something that I'm a little bit cautious of, because I don't know how much I trust people to put me in that state. And I don't know a whole lot about it. And one of the things that was very interesting with root cause therapy is how close to the surface, and correct me if I'm not saying this correctly, but it's not really hypnosis. It's more of you just close your eyes and people are right there on the surface. But the amount of effect it has when you go through the process with someone on that level, I thought that was incredible, because my whole life, I should explain, I think you really can make a massive impact with someone through hypnosis and through programming, like on that level, to talk to people and work with people on a subconscious level. So I think there is serious value with that approach, but I think, like myself and many people who may think like me, they're a little bit nervous with that. And you really introduce with root cause therapy how you get those same results, but you don't have to go to that level of like hypnosis. It's not even really hypnosis at all. And I remember, I think I actually bugged you with a few questions before I signed up, that I was like, is this what it is? Because I'm cautious of that. And that's not really how I work with people. And sure enough, it was really incredible. And some of them you go through and you can see how powerful they really are, and some you don't. And this one really was, it's something else. It's something very new. And like NLP, I have trouble explaining it, but it really is something worth checking out. So I know you're on the other side of the world and you've created this incredible life for yourself. Give us just a quick backstory of the Center for Healing, because I know it was actually like a physical location that you had, I think, in Australia at one point, and let people know just how successful you were and are with root cause therapy and your practice, because it was pretty incredible to hear that myself.
Yeah, so I'll go through the story. So basically, when I had taken drugs and had all mental health issues that I wasn't even aware of, that I was self-medicating basically, and I got to the point where I kind of hit rock bottom in my relationships and all of that. Externally looking successful, but internally not at all. And then I got to this point where I'm like, okay, I need to ask for help, and I signed up with someone who actually did some NLP with me. So that was my like introduction. And I remember walking out of that session just feeling like the world just looked different, and I just felt so much lighter. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then he was doing a practitioner training, so I signed up to that. And I was in a job that I was in like international trade for like 8 years, completely different. Anyway, he's like, yeah, do it. NLP can help with your sales or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. And I knew in my mind, I've known since I was like 7, 8 years old that I wanted to be in business, but I just had so many blocks and fears actually taking action on my ideas. But yeah, after I signed up to that course, and halfway through I like got this lightning bolt. I'm like, I need to do this. It just like literally just felt this energy hit me, like I need to help people get out of their own way, and because from just doing the healing with him, a business that I had been thinking about for a year, within 2 weeks I'd finished designing the products. I ordered them from China. I started selling them. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just in my own way. Like, what the hell? So yeah, I walked into my boss's office, resigned from my job like crazy. Everyone's like, how are you going to eat? I'm like, I'm going to have to be really good, and I'm going to have to work for it. So I didn't have a kid or anything then. So I just jumped off the cliff. After about 6 months, I ran out of money, and yeah, I just asked the universe to kind of help me. What am I meant to do? And I had a business coach, and he did a healing on me. And this is where like I shattered my beliefs about NLP, even though it helped me so much at the start. Because I was like, after he did this healing with me, I was so depressed. I was like throwing up. I had to borrow my friend's dog because I was having a healing hangover. I didn't know, and I was messaging him, abusing him for it. I'm like, I just spent 6 months doing NLP and I was feeling so good. What have you done to me? And anyway, but then that kind of woke me up, and like I said, I asked the universe, and I felt like it was giving me a redirection, because I had set up a co-working space when I first started doing these sessions so they could help pay my rent. And I had these other amazing people around me, and they started leaving. Clients stopped coming in, and yeah, I just felt like I wanted to move to the city in Melbourne. Put a post on Facebook. Within 10 minutes, I was speaking to some girl that had a penthouse that said she's an Aquarius too, and that she's a coach too, and I should go move in with her. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And on that same day when I was going to check it out, I'm like, I better come see it and meet you. Like, I had a friend that had a beautiful space that he had just renovated in Port Melbourne, which is like near the city, down literally like 5-minute walk from her place. Like, and he gave me a room, and it all just happened within 2 days. And anyway, I ended up living with this girl and another healer for like 10 months. And that is when it went from me doing a structured web NLP session to all of a sudden awakening and learning all these healing methods. And I really was just kind of relaxing, and we were working 1 or 2 days a week, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. And out of that, we ended up leaving each other, and we all have come out with our own methods. And mine was the root cause therapy. What happened was, just before I left, another redirection. I connected with Ryan, who I had met and actually gone on a date with the year before, then didn't hear from him in a year. And I saw him online, and I'm like, hey. And anyway, he ended up seeing me for a session, and he walked into my office, that one that I had in Port Melbourne. And I'm like, I was trying not to show my shock, because he was like 15 kilos lighter. He was like a big muscly guy, He walked in, his clothes are tattered. He was 15 kilos lighter. I was shocked. I didn't want to show it. And I said, what has been going on? And he's like, well, I've been an ice addict for like the last year. I've been in a drug den, basically a dealer girlfriend, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. And I had just been working on how to help people overcome addictions, because I I had been working on overcoming mine because I had dabbled in like heroin. I was more like into weed and those kind of things. He was more into that. But I discovered Dr. David Hawkins' work and scale of consciousness, and then I kind of linked everything together, and the chakras and everything. And then I'm like, okay, this is like something here. And he walked in and I basically just did it on him. And after 3 hours of that session, we talked about drugs for 5 minutes. He never used ice again. Like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's something in this. And not only that, it was so energetically powerful that we say we burnt down the building because a day later, some energy apparently had ran into an air conditioner under my office that hadn't in like 5 years, and it was in the kitchen, and it burnt the whole building down. And I woke up in the morning and my housemate came in and said, hey, I think your office burnt down. And I'm like, okay. So that's like kind of our joke. And Ryan is actually an air conditioning mechanic before he was like a drug dealer. So we kind of make a joke about that. But that was the start of our relationship. And then he kind of started, he kept seeing me for sessions because he had awakened. And then he started doing like a mainstream addiction course, and he didn't like it. He kept arguing with the teacher, like, when are we going to work on the traumas? When are we going to, you know? And then anyway, I got a message from him saying, I don't care how long it takes you, or I don't know what he said. What did he say? I don't care how long it takes or what I need to do, but can you teach me everything that you know? And he wanted to open a center, and that's just when I was kind of moving out from those girls, and then we decided to open our center. I had just been mucking around for a year, just creating the method, and he had just been finished being an addict, so we had no money. And I was able, through some connections, to get a little old dingy office in a medical center down in Bayside, Melbourne. They left the furniture for us. And then Ryan happened to get a article in the main newspaper, a feature article. And so we hadn't even got the phone line connected, and we were just bombarded with, this is the start of, we called it the Melbourne Centre of Healing at the time. So we're like, I'm sitting in like a room with like a microwave around me, trying to type up the programs, taking calls. We are getting inundated with bookings. Like, that's how we started. Wow. You know, and that, yeah, it's like amazing. So yeah, and then we started having to hire people, but we ran out of space in our little old office. And so as we grew, we got a bigger space, a big, beautiful healing center. We had our kinesiologist there. We were booking our clients in for float tank sessions. We had a whole program and a real alternative for people that have been through the mental health and addiction system, the mainstream one. It didn't work for them. And then they kind of saw us. And the method that we were using was root cause therapy. I was only training my staff, and I had all betrayal issues at the time, and I didn't want to share it with anyone. And I remember sitting there with Ryan one day, this is like a year after we opened, he's like, you know, you're gonna have to teach people this method at some point, like you need to do practitioner trainings. And I'm like, no, it's ours, like it's so powerful, it's so amazing, you know. And he's like, okay. And then after we had our baby, and we just had this overwhelming feeling that we wanted to isolate ourselves. I don't know if we were burnt out from running the center for so long, or from having a baby. We just wanted more time. And it was just like, we need to isolate. We want to move overseas. I kept having this message in my head, like, the future is online. The future is doing sessions online. And I didn't really like doing sessions online. I was so used to in person. And I'm like, okay. And I just thought, okay, I think now I have to teach people, and I have to get over it, and I have to let the world have this. And so, yeah, within 2 days, I wrote out the main course. I'm still friends with the girls that work for us. We still support them. They still do that. They're doing their healing sessions for their own businesses now, which is amazing. And yeah, that's kind of like where we're at now. So that was a year ago, and I think we've got over 120 students. We've got practitioners that are certified all over the world, which is like amazing, which is like what I had on my vision board, but I thought they were going to be physical centers. I didn't think they were going to be people doing it on their own. And then I remembered my mission because I had studied business in the past when I finished school. My mission was to help healers be able to do what they love full time. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm actually in line with that. Like, this is right, you know? So yeah,
That's
that's it.
wow. That's an awesome. Thank you for just like putting that out there, because that's essentially that's what. So this whole show, I don't know if it is podcast a show. I'll call it a show, but this whole show essentially is learning about. A lot of the times we learn about the success story of kind of here I am and this is what I did, but a lot of times we don't talk necessarily about the early days, and that's kind of where people can really relate. And that's I think what helps to inspire people a lot of times is saying, okay, so if I come from this place, I still am able to, to get to this successful place myself. And I love hearing people's stories, and that's, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I don't even know, there's so many turns that I want to take from different pieces of that. One thing that definitely stands out is how the work that you did with Ryan, it just says something, like clearly something very powerful happened there for him to make that shift of him saying, okay, you did this practice on me and it had such an amazing effect. This is now what I want to dedicate my whole life towards. Like, that just shows in itself how powerful this system really is, right? Because it's for him to, and I can see that. And I know, like, people, like, I was in the Facebook group, and you say you have over 100 practitioners. That's not 100 clients. That's 100 people who are also training this method, and however many clients each of these people have. But I'm in the Facebook group and I hear what people are saying and the transformations that they're having with people. So I see it firsthand. But that really just goes to show, I think when you have a really good idea, things happen. And for you, like, and this is a good example of that, for how your business just just blew up so quickly, and almost literally with that one building. But like with Ryan, for him just to turn and say, okay, this is how I want to dedicate. And I love that he kind of followed his pathway to power of working in addictions. And I've watched some of the programs that he teaches, and they're fantastic. And I love that he's having the conversation around addiction, and both of you, that needs to be had, where it's not just someone is addicted to drugs. It's saying, let's talk about the root cause, the whole point of what you do, of root cause therapy. Let's deal with the issues of this stuff. And that goes from mental health to whatever things we're currently dealing with is likely just a cover up at some point from something that we need to go back and deal with, that we never dealt with. And, it's, as I get older, I just feel like we're all still little kids. I feel like I'm a 6-year-old still. I still get grumpy at people. I still get my feelings hurt. You would think when you get into, mid 30s or mid 40s, like, we actually transform and we turn into an adult and we start acting more mature, but that doesn't really happen. And I think a lot of these things that we carry with us, especially at those most important ages, like you mentioned, when we're quite young, we don't really know how to heal those. And I think you really nailed it, just with focusing on that, and going back to the root cause and really fixing our whatever needs to be fixed there to live the life that we're meant to be living today. The other thing that's really interesting to me is that you and I share, I think, a similar interest in is creating. A thing for me that I learned, I got into coaching and I was very passionate about helping people, and I grew my coaching business fairly quickly just because I have a real estate background. So sales and marketing for 10 years. When I got into coaching, I kind of knew how to get the message across, and I was able to start coaching people fairly quickly. And I started working with other coaches because I realized a lot of coaches were needing help in that area as well, just because there's so many incredible coaches out there, and we go through this long certification process, but then we don't realize 80% of it is learning how to get clients. And if we can't learn how to get clients, then we can't change the world with our incredible coaching. And I remember I started working with a lot of coaches and helping and working with entrepreneurs around business. And then I kind of hit a wall last year in the sense of, wait a minute, this isn't ever what I really wanted to be doing. It was kind of like I found a path that I knew I could travel down, and I traveled it just because I could, but it wasn't the journey that I wanted to be on, which really is helping people, not necessarily on a business level, but more on like helping people with discover purpose and live a meaningful life and that route. But what I learned during that time, the point that I'm trying to get at is I learned that there were things that I loved about coaching that I wasn't doing at that time, because at that point I was, I think 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday, I'm doing 1 hour coaching calls. So I'm really living in that coaching life. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is really what I signed up for, to be just doing that kind of role. And one of the things that I learned, I kind of went back to kind of discover what I'm really interested in. And I learned a lot about what's important to me is connection and building community and being around like-minded people, and also creating. I've learned that I really enjoy creating courses, like even with youth programs that I create, like coaching models that I teach. Like I really love creating, and I could definitely, it's just funny because I really see with the NLP background, how you got to do, like how you went the direction you went, because with NLP, and I was trained under Richard Bandler, who's one of the creators of NLP. So shout out to him. And, he changed the world with those techniques, but it's kind of in a sense, like, here's your bag of tools and here's all this kind of interesting information about how the brain works and perspective and all these different ideas. But there's something missing with it in the sense of, how do I put all of this stuff together? And I think just when I came across what you're doing, it puts everything together in a way that it really serves people on a deeper level. Because even when I got out of the NLP training, I was a little bit like, how do I do this now? Where with you and the program that you teach, it really is kind of on a deeper level of just, here's the steps, here's the process. And it's really, if you want to be a practitioner and you want to change people's lives, you really have created the process to take practitioners through to help people, to get them to help people.
I really appreciate that you said that, because I remember when I finished my NLP training and I signed up my first client, and he came at that point, I think it was my first or second client, and it was in my apartment, and he came over and he was sitting in the chair in front of me, and I had written my own process, because like you said, I was not taught how do you structure a session, what order do you do things in, at what point do you do what tools. So yeah, that really, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that deficit really helped me think about and create that structure, to take the thinking out of the session so much, or take that worry out of the session, and have that process right in front of you. So you can focus and be present with the client and focus on healing, rather than worrying about what you're doing next or where it's going.
Right. Yeah. And I know with, the FAQs with the root cause therapy, it's always like, and another reason was I was in a lot of large groups where I was working with people with depression and kind of in addiction as well. And I share a similar story as you. At one point in my life, I just was lost. I was on the wrong path. I was drinking a lot. There was drugs. It was all that stuff. And then, luckily I found my way kind of back on the path that I wanted to be on. But I was helping a lot of people, but I kept hitting a wall, because I could only help people from my experience, and I didn't have the certifications necessary to really dive deeper with people, which your program really helped me with. But I always remember I kept asking like those self-limiting beliefs of like, can I do this? And can I take people kind of to that level? And is it going to be okay? And it's like, just the whole structure of it, and how like the support system, because you are making the thing that was an eye-opener with learning root cause therapy is it does have a massive impact on people, to the point, like you were saying, like where you have like the hangover from your sessions the next day. Like that was the first time of learning a tool in therapy where I was nervous because I knew the power that it had, that it could have on people. And I was nervous to be there for that transformation. And I remember I kept asking, like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like, this is,
I know
like,
you're.
and then like, once I was in the Facebook group and learning more about it, I learned that was the common question of everyone. Like, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, we're here to heal, but when it comes to healing, it's a pretty real thing.
What do I do with all this power?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a big eye opener in that sense. Now, a big thing of what I do about what this podcast is about is purpose and living with passion. My goal, again, is to inspire others to follow their own path, to figure out what they want to be doing with their life, to live a life they love and live with passion, and to share stories of people who are doing that, like yourself. You're making a massive impact in the world. You're helping people. You love your life. You live in the tropics. Like, you've really got it figured out. And when it comes to finding purpose and getting on that path, you brought up something. You said you were in international trade for 8 years, was it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you were clear in the sense of kind of why you transitioned into the world you did. Just, it sounds like you were kind of looking for something to help yourself, and through that you created this beautiful thing that you share with the world now. But tell me a little bit about that transition from being in that business for 8 years. Was there a sense there of, like, aside from, of course, just based on where you were at that point in your life, you knew that you needed to make a change, but just from the aspect of leaving that lifestyle behind and maybe working in that job, which may not have been the direction you really wanted to go, like, what happened there in terms of that shift of, like, how did that feel? Like, were you in a place with that job where you were thinking, this isn't really where I want to be? Like, walk us through that kind of transition.
Yeah, so yeah, I finished school and I knew I wanted to be in business, so I just chose the course international business, right? And I just did that and I enjoyed it. And then I did the whole, normal thing. You go to, it wasn't uni, but it was a TAFE, which I don't know, I think you guys call it technical college. I don't know what you guys call it, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I went to college for 1 year, so I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Anyway, I finished that. My dad's old school, like, he was literally older, like 50 years older than me. So he was really old school. So he was like, go and get a reception job and work your way up in a company and all of that. So I went and got a reception job, and instead of working my way up in a company, I just job jumped, which is, I think our generation did that, has done that a lot or still do. And so, yeah, moving up in roles by going to different companies, and I wasn't happy. I was, that typical working 9 to 5 in the commute, trying to uphold my toxic relationships. Sure, I bought some properties and things like that, which I, of course, sabotaged and ended up losing. But I just remember, like, I just felt like my soul is dying. I don't know how else to explain it. And I wasn't even spiritual back then at all. And I remember thinking that and saying that, like, my soul is dying. Like, I don't feel like it's right that I have to get up at 6 a.m. Like, I feel like I'm dying inside. I don't feel like I should be locked to this desk or making my 100 cold calls this week and I remember I would go to some sales appointments because I knew I wanted to start business. I didn't know what. I'm like, I threw myself in a really hard sales job. And I just remember falling asleep in the car and just, like, sabotaging it and just hating it. And then, yeah, that's when obviously I kind of, and around that time I hit rock bottom personally as well. And then I'm like, okay, I need help, like, and so that, when I first received a therapy session, it's not like in that moment I decided this is what I was going to do. What it took was me then going to study. And then as I was studying, it was in that moment where I'm like, when it hit me, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the beauty of when you do transformational therapies is that, or even when you're in a room with other people or in a community that are all, like, excited about something, it's just like all of a sudden you think you're invincible and you do crazy things sometimes. But that was a transition. It was literally like just like that light bulb moment, and I totally just let go of my past identity of like that I'm a sales rep or I'm, in a shipping whatever coordinator. I just immediately let go of those identities and I just thought that okay, this is what I am now. And I kind of stepped into that, you know,
Yeah.
and I forget and I think a big part of it is forgiving yourself for all that time that you wasted.
Hmm.
Um, I remember even me and my mom and my younger sister were talking, and my mom's going to my sister, "What are you gonna do like when you finish school or whatever?" She's like, "I don't know. I'm gonna try some different things," and I'm like, "Oh, you should like think about what you want to do." And then she's like, "Well, you wasted 10 years or 8 years or whatever in what you were doing before," and I'm like, "That's true, but." I think it's called the sunk cost effect, or I don't know
I've heard
the
something,
actual,
yeah, something like that
yeah.
before. Yeah.
It's like just because you spent a lot of money and time doing something, it doesn't mean you should just keep riding that horse and beating that horse because that's going to keep you stuck. It's about you being able to like be okay with it, know that it's a part of the journey. And I'm so grateful because that enabled me to use my corporate background in incorporating data into a therapy session. I don't think anyone does that. And
Yeah.
that's like a huge part of root cause therapy. So I'm grateful, that I did that. I don't look back and go, oh my God, I wasted all those years. Because at one point you just got to realize it was perfect. It was a part of the path. This is your path now moving forward. So I think that holds a lot of people back when they can't forgive themselves or let go or think they should keep doing that because they went to uni for how many years and because they have debt or whatever.
Hmm.
It's just got to be a decision like, okay, I'm grateful that I did that. What can I learn from that and take out of that? Why did that happen? What can I use from that into what I'm going to be doing going forward?
Yeah, this is my language. So I totally agree with everything you're saying there. I think I agree that it's definitely not time wasted. And I think even subconsciously that whole time is we need to be almost doing something that we don't enjoy to push us to the point of saying, okay, I need to make a change. So
Yeah.
like I enjoyed real estate, the money's good. But I just got to a point where, I want to make more of an impact. But I took the sales and the marketing and all that stuff with me into the coaching business that allows me to coach more powerfully into more people. And it helped me with being in front of people and, booking appointments. But I talk about this in my book about, one thing I talk about is how I feel the big problem. So I'm under the impression that we are facing a global epidemic of unhappiness in the sense of there's a lot of people who are working jobs and just not really enjoying life all that much. And it's not necessarily just an assumption that I'm making. This is from doing a lot of questionnaires and working with youth and a lot of things and a lot of adults that I coach around purpose as well, just in the sense of really learning kind of on a deeper level that there's a lot of people out there who aren't really doing what they're truly passionate to do. And that really plays forward. And I got to a point in my own life. I share a very similar experience with you and it's actually kind of funny. And I want to research this a little bit more because I share a very similar situation of, it took me to kind of hit rock bottom to find my world into personal development and make that shift. So I wonder if there's something there where, because I don't know if before that I really thought that there's necessarily something more for me in the terms of like working as a coach and personal development. It was almost like when I hit rock bottom first, and then through that I kind of created myself, and that's when I became this person who wants to help other people. So there's something in there that is interesting because you said something very similar. But anyways, in my own journey of taking so long to figure out what I want to do and what my purpose is, and realizing this about so many people, I went back and I time traveled a bit to think about like, how did I get on this path? Because for so many years I was chasing money and success. And I realized that's never been important to me. So how did I end up on this path? And I kind of got to a point where I realized in high school is typically when we're supposed to make the biggest decision of our lives. grade 10 or 11, like, what are you going to do with your life? And how I believe we're not really mature enough mentally or emotionally.
Our brain, our prefrontal cortex isn't even fully formed. Like that,
I have that in my,
for critical thinking.
I have that in my book as well. And that's,
yeah.
and that's the last part of our brain, which is our decision maker to develop. And that typically doesn't happen, like that's around the age of 25. So if we're 15 years old and, we don't know what our values are, we don't even have a job yet, let alone, what we're supposed to do. So I think that's a big problem that a lot of us have, is we're forced to make this decision at such a young age. But I get it, because we're young and life goes on. We have to do something. So I understand, there's ways that our system could work better, but that's, I think there's an easier way to solve the problem. And I think what that is I think the bigger problem is when we enter the second phase of our life of becoming mature, which maybe for you was when you went through your transition. For me, it was a few years ago at my early 30s when I went through mine. It took me till probably the age of 33 or 32 to say that I matured. I think personally, like, I feel like I'm only a few years old, just because I just wasted a lot of my life. Like, I didn't know who I was. I was distracting myself. And I think a big problem is we choose this path at such a young age, 15, 16 years old, and we start traveling it. But then when we enter the second phase of life, we never reassess that question, and we never go back to that question at a point in our lives when we're actually capable of answering it, which is, I get it. We have bought a house. We've spent 20 years in this career. We're married. We have children. We have bills to pay. Like, I understand, of course, and there's fear attached to making a serious decision to make that transition. But I think that's the big problem. We make this decision at a young age, and Jerome Bruner, who's a psychologist, he has a definition in Wikipedia for immaturity, which is supposed to be a time for play without serious consequence. And during that time, which is supposed to just be for play, we're making the most important decision of our lives. And I think if people understand that when we enter the second phase of our life and we're mature, I think it's very important that we all, like myself a couple of years ago, we stop and we say, okay, I know who I am as a human being. I'm mature. I know what my values are. I know what's important to me. I should now be making the decision of what I want to do with my life now that I'm capable of answering it. So I almost feel like, in a sense, our life is just beginning at a time like this. So I understand what you said in the sense of it's hard to kind of get off that path and maybe make that change especially if someone's been in the same career for 10 years and they've built their way up the corporate ladder or whatever it might be. But I think that's the biggest thing we need to be doing, is making that shift later on in our life. And I talk about in my book, there's 100 reasons or 100 excuses why you shouldn't do it, make that decision. But there's one why you should, which is your happiness. Because, you have to be following your purpose and be passionate about what you're doing to live a happy life. I truly believe that. So just with you saying with your journey and making that pivot, when I hear that personally, that's like, I'm like, that's the most blessed thing that I could possibly hear, because it just, like, that is what has created such an incredible life for you, where, if you would have just said, but I've been doing this for 10 years and you just stayed on that journey, like, let me ask you, like, what do you think? Tell me, and to the listeners, explain to me what you think your life would be like and what it would feel like if you never made that decision, to help just to inspire
I get
others.
A real sinking feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I just want to say like something. Sorry, I talk about my dad a lot.
No.
But something that he would say to me that stuck in my brain, even while I was in that career that I thought I was meant to be doing. He would say to me, I love what I do. I love my job, and I can't wait for Monday mornings. And my brain is like, what? I hate, like, how can you say that? Like, I hate Monday mornings. And that really planted a seed in me, even though it took a while to grow. Was that question was always in the back of my head, was like, what is the job going to be, or what do I need to be doing to have that same feeling that my dad had about what he was doing, and looking forward to Monday mornings? And it is as simple as that. Are you excited about going into your work week or getting up in the morning, you
Mhm.
know, to do something, you know. So, and
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I cut you off there,
No,
but
not at all. That's what it's all
yeah,
about. It's more so like
yeah.
with the time zone is I don't want to, because if there's a delay or something, I don't want to start cutting you off. And then, it's with Zoom, it's, if we were together, I would be cutting you off every 2 seconds, but it's a little bit trickier to make it sound all right. But no, I can totally relate. And just about you saying like that feeling that you have or that you had, that you just weren't really enjoying life, and like how it feels in your soul, as hard as that is to explain, I just know that feeling so well of, and just like feeling lost. For me, it was
Mm,
the hard thing for me was having so much motivate. I'm a very motivated person. I have a ton of energy. Like that's, ADHD is a part of that for sure. But I'm just like, I'm always moving. I think a lot. I have a lot of ideas, and I'm just very motivated. And it was very painful for me to have that motivation and not know where to direct it. And
mm,
that's where like what I've learned with my personality and having an addictive personality of chasing I have to be doing something, and I don't think that's necessarily healthy. But if I point that towards something healthy like personal development or coaching, I'm going to live a much happier and better life serving people with that energy, as opposed to how destructive it can be if I'm doing drugs and drinking and, just kind of living that lifestyle, because I'm just all or nothing either way. So it's just, for me, it was like, I needed something to be directed towards. And that's why, like, I just know that feeling so well of feeling lost. And that's really why this whole concept of this podcast is important to me, because I just know that feeling. But even recently, of learning the feeling of what it actually feels like to enjoy life. I don't mean that from a perspective of, I've dealt with depression and I've lived in that world, and that's why I'm comfortable talking to other people who are going through it. But, for most of my life, I've been like, I'm not going to say it. I haven't always hated my life, but I've always just kind of felt like I'm going through it. And it's weird for me to say that I like just something as simple as I enjoy life. And I don't know if a lot of people do. Maybe they do, but I'm not too sure. And I didn't for a long time. And just knowing what it feels like to feel lost, and now knowing what it feels like to just enjoy life. And the reason why that is just, doing something that I'm passionate about, and on a higher level, serving other people and helping other people, that I just want to give that to other people. And it's like, when I hear a story like yours, especially with you, because sometimes people come on the podcast and I always ask everyone, how did you get here? Like, where was that defining moment? And you get the people like um the outliers, where they say, I was at 2 months old, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and I've been one ever since, and I love my life. Like, those people are out there, but they're 1%. But you really share that same story as me, as like on my level, I just kind of fell in one job, fell out of the other. I was an iron worker, and then I watched a real estate show one night, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a realtor, like, and make money." And then I make all this money, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm miserable." Like, I hit like the most successful year that I had in 2017. Um, I was the most financially successful I'd ever been in my life, and I hit rock bottom at that same time.
Do you know what? I have a similar kind of experience. I was in my beach house with my sports car, and that's when I hit rock bottom. And I think what it does is it really contrasts or shows you, okay, you've got everything you thought that you needed to have to make you happy, and you're still not happy. And that was a real moment for me looking out onto the ocean. I'm like, what else do I need? Like, and that was the rock bottom. That was like, okay, I've got everything that I thought that I would ever need, and
That that's a
I'm
great point.
still completely lost. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And it was me having this goal, this big goal that I had accomplished, and thinking I should be happy, and being miserable. And that's when I said, okay, there's something seriously wrong here in my life for me to be feeling this way. And that's when I just said, how did I end up here? And I got to figure this out. And that's when I kind of went back and went through that whole process myself. And then, now share with others what has helped me to get clear on my purpose. But at the end of the day, it's, we know the answer to what we want, what we're passionate about, and what that purpose is. And I think a lot of us, we listen to our parents or our teachers, or the brutal conditioning of society and thinking we have to be successful and making all this money to be happy, just to kind of realign with our heart of what do you want to do and what makes you happy as a human being, and how do you define success? Because success is subjective. Is it money to you? Is it family? And whatever that means to live a successful life on your own terms. So yeah, that's a very incredible story. And just you've been very humble. I'm trying to get out from you like how awesome everything you do is. And like I just started meeting you and getting involved with you during, I think, that transition. You had just, I think, left your office at that point. So I really did see a bit of that transition in your world and in that business. And just being in the Facebook group, like, you're very humble in the impact that you're having and the people you're serving. So I just want to say this to the listeners of, I really recommend looking into what you do. If anyone out there is a coach, if they want to help people in any way, whether or not they become a root cause therapy practitioner specifically and just coach your one method, or if it's someone who just wants to learn something for their own personal development, like that's why I did it, and to learn another avenue, and it's totally different than everything else I learned. So, and if you just want another tool, if you already do coaching or therapy, it really is incredible. And I guess in saying that, is there someone, like, who's the demographic specifically that should be looking for, that might want to get certified with your root cause therapy program?
So I'm going to go against all the marketing things that say to niche down, which Ryan's trying to work on me with at the moment. But
I'm the same way. That drove me crazy for 2 years. It's like, I'm an activist, I'm a volunteer, I'm a coach. Like,
I help everyone and anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on your side. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny you were saying like feeling lost, because I had like this reading done, and this lady's like, your purpose is to, like, when people are feeling lost, you help people with that redirection. So I've definitely people that are interested in if they want to have their own kind of healing, if they've tried other things, like within the training, you can buddy up with other practitioners and actually have them experience the method. But yeah, definitely coaches. Actually, the people that I really wanted to target, which I have been from the beginning, is mainstream therapists. And I'm actually in mainstream therapy groups because my philosophy is you can't like fight against the system. And this is the whole philosophy behind the Center for Healing, is you can't fight against the system. You just got to infiltrate it. You've just got to like go in and start taking action. We can't just sit here and just put down what the main system is and put down talk therapy, because they all have their place. But yes, it does need a change, but you need to be the change. You can't just like put people down and not actually take action.
Yeah.
And so we really have been trying to reach out to like mainstream therapists, counselors, psychologists, things like that. And we do have quite a few in the group now that are in like wanting to create a more transformative experience for their clients.
And I've seen that feedback just from you saying that in the group of therapists in the Facebook group who are saying like, this is a total game changer, and a lot of them shifting their entire practices. So yeah, it's just another tool. And I should also say, aside from even just the practitioners, whether it's you maybe who offers the program, or if it is one of the practitioners who are already certified, but even just someone who might be dealing with a trauma or something, or wanting to do some healing themselves, like this is seriously like gonna solve your problems for you. Like, it really is. Like I was saying at the start, it's kind of scary at being a practitioner, knowing that the effect that it does have on people of really creating these massive shifts, because there's so many types of therapies out there and talk therapy. And I think I honestly want to say this is one of the few of them that do have a major transformation aspect to it of really helping people.
Thank you. And I'll kind of circle back to what you were saying at the start. Like it's not quite hypnosis. It's I know you said it, and we're saying it's quite powerful, but at the same time, it's empowering for our clients or the people that receive root cause therapy because we are guiding them to heal themselves. They're still like fully conscious, awake, still fully there. And we can't do anything wrong because we always ask permission and we're working with what the client is capable of doing in that particular session. And
Mhm.
I've definitely had times where I've asked their mind, can we work on this, and their mind is like, no. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll try something else. And that, with that safety barrier, with that client there fully there with their critical mind, that is what has given me the assurance that I can let anyone do this method, because it is about the client healing themselves and just being a guide for them and a structure for that,
Mhm.
to be able to do that. And I've even had times there, like it's like their soul or their subconscious is so excited, I'll try to work on something, they just jump to something else, and that's fine. And yeah, the transformations are just amazing. Like I've I've had so many clients that are seeing a psychotherapist or are seeing a psychologist that they have been for like years and years, and they have like 4 to 8 sessions. They go back to their psychologist and they're just, or their counselor, they're like, oh my God, hang on, I have to like rejig of who I thought you were. Like their whole identity improves so much. All their symptoms go away. Not all of them, but the major ones
Mhm.
go. So yeah, this is now I'm not being so humble.
Yeah,
But
no, but this is what I'm trying to, this is just, and just for the people to understand what it is, but this is what I was trying to get out of you for sure. Um,
yeah.
the, there's a ambulance going by, so if anyone's listening, I apologize. I live right on like the main artery. I have a nice view, but it's like it's like the little toy ambulance from like a mile away. I'm like, oh no, sometimes you'll see me put on mute, but I gave a fair
That's
warning
okay.
on my first episode with everyone that this is going to be part of the issue. We're in the early days here, so but I just wanted to say that what you mentioned is yeah, that was another incredible thing of wanting to see. I love the mind. I love mindset. I love learning about subconscious, especially with NLP, and how powerful our subconscious mind is and how much that controls us, and how much a part of us it is. And if you want to see your subconscious come to life, uh root cause therapy is very interesting. I remember like I was doing the sway test by myself in the living room and I was like, what is going on? Like I'm lying to myself. Like what is going on here? Like it really is uh there's just a few very simple parts of it that you take, and it's immediately I was like, this works. Like it's not like you have to believe it and drink the Kool-Aid. It's just like do
Mm.
this method and it's like boom. And I'm like, wait a minute, like it's too real. Like it's yeah. um I know you're busy, and I know it was tricky getting you on here. I'm so glad you came on, so I'm not going to take much more time, but I do have two more questions I want to ask you, um because in the case there's people who are listening to this who might um benefit from, aside from being a coach or a therapist, someone who could really benefit this treatment, because this is really who it serves and who it helps. Like who would be the type of person that root cause therapy would really help, um, would be the right practice for them? Like, is it just dealing with any type of trauma type thing, or where are they at in terms of where this would be the right fit for what they're looking for healing?
hmm Yeah, so definitely for people that have been trying for a long time with all different methods, and we definitely often, and we still hear it like, this is my last chance that I'm going to give trying another therapy. I've tried all the therapies. If you're that person, if you've gone through even just personal development and things like that, and you know that there's some traumas there, you've talked about it a million times with your counselor, but it's still, the symptoms are still there, like you still are not peaceful in the present moment, then this will be the therapy for you. Personally, that's the kind of people that we um, work with. Our other graduates use the tool in different ways and specialize in different areas, but that's probably the main one is people that they already know what's wrong with them. They already know what's wrong with them. Now they want to go in and actually shift it.
And
Right.
and that's such a confident answer, in the sense of like, look, if you've tried everything else and you want to make that change, we will help you with that. And I've heard that from you many times. So I hope people on this podcast know me well enough by now that the people who I invite on here, it isn't something where you're paying me to pitch your services or anything like that. Like, the people who I bring on here, it's for, because I truly believe in what they do, and I think they really are making an impact. So this isn't if you're listening to this and you're
I
wondering,
wasn't actually I wasn't expecting you to talk about it so much. I had no idea.
yeah, well,
So
yeah,
yeah, I'm pleasantly
it's
surprised.
it's very interesting. And, I think it definitely makes an impact. And for people, because working with people with depression and with addiction and being in that world with these people, it's tough. And being there myself is most importantly, of when you say, like, when you feel like you've tried everything, and when you say, like, someone comes in and they say, I've tried everything, this is my last hope. That's a real feeling. And to be the solution at that point is so powerful for people, because if you go through talk therapy and you go see a psychologist, or you get these labels put on you that you're depressed, or you have all of these things, and I just said that out of the blue there, but I feel like we could talk about an hour on that whole world too. We won't go there right now, but but to be that solution. So I just the reason I asked that question is because I do know there are people out there who might be in a place where they do want to make a change, and they know that other things haven't worked, that I do honestly think this will work. And then we'll get how you can reach out for this. But the last question I want to ask you is, what advice do you have for someone? And a couple of people who have answered this question actually gave advice to themselves when they were at earlier stage in their life. But for anyone who might be at a point in their life where they're also wanting to make a shift and follow their passion and follow their purpose, if they're not where they want to be, what is your advice to that person?
It's not the prettiest advice. It is all the things that are happening to you and keep happening to you in your life. You're the lowest common denominator. So if you want things outside of you to improve, and if you want to feel better, you need to look at yourself, and you need to start owning and taking responsibility for the things that are happening in your life. Yeah. And
Tough cookie.
yeah.
just gives it to us. Jesus. People, including myself, don't want to hear that.
Said it wasn't pretty.
But it's the most accurate advice out there, for sure. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's it. That's
okay.
it. Boom.
Yeah, no, mic drop. Yeah, no, it's there. You're right. And I think a big part of helping people and creating change that you learn over the years is you can be there for someone. I keep saying this, and I apologize for people that have heard me say the same term, but it's so true, of when the desire to change becomes greater than the desire to stay the same. And a lot of times people have to get to that point. And when they do, people are there to help you. Root cause therapy is one of those things that can help you when you're at that point, but we have to get to that point in our lives. And for me, it took me a few times until I got to a point where I said, okay, this time is the last time. I would drink, and then I would say, oh, I'm taking a break, and I'd quit for 6 months, and I'd go back to drinking, and I would do that for a little bit. And then eventually I just got to a point where I said, okay, it's like the message is going to keep coming until you accept it and make a change. The universe is incredible that way.
And willpower only lasts so long.
Yeah, no, you're right. 100%. So thank you so much for everything you do, not just this podcast, but, just creating such an incredible platform to help people with transformation. Give us all the spots we can come to find you, and find where we could learn more about the Center for Healing and Root Cause Therapy, and all that stuff, and where to connect with you personally if people want to.
So the best place, so either if you want to look at our courses or if you want to actually find a practitioner either in your area online, is the centerforhealing.com.au. So it's all there. So you can either click see courses or find a healer and they'll all pop up there. So that's probably the main place. If you want to follow us on social media, our Instagram is at the Center for Healing. If you want to follow me personally, and there's just a lot of pictures of my son, to be honest, and some like funny spiritual memes, it's at the Life Changer Trainer. I can't even say it.
The
The
life,
Life Changer. I've
the
never said it out
accent.
loud. Yeah.
That's good.
I didn't realize how strong my accent was until I was in a foreign country, and I'm like, oh my God. And then yeah, and if you follow us at the Center for Healing on Instagram, we have a lot of like short mini classes that we have on there and little excerpts from our courses. So if you want to get a feel for what we do, that's probably the main place. And then we also have a Facebook group called the Center for Healing Soul Group, which is, again, you can get a taste of us. We do some free classes and lives. So even if you can't financially, we do a lot of free courses as well. And yeah, you can get a taste kind of for what we do.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's for myself, when I went through the process, I knew nothing about it. I think I went on the website and there's a video that I just watched that literally explains in detail exactly what root cause therapy is. And I decided to do it with the program. And the program you can do on your own schedule as well, if that's still the case. So I was just like at night after work, I would watch a video and I would go through the process, and it was awesome. It was really powerful. I remember I'm a very skeptical person, and I reached out to Melissa directly a couple times and said, is this going to work? And she said, if you're not happy after, just reach out to let me know. And I never did reach out saying I was unhappy. So, and I would just,
no. And that's why we do it. We're like money back guarantee, because and I've certainly had times where I signed up for something, doesn't matter how incredible it is, for some reason it didn't gel with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And we don't want to trap people in anything. So
yeah,
that's important. And I'm glad that you stayed, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very no pressure environment for sure. But there's a lot of, I've, studying CBT and NLP, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you just want to be sure. But it's really incredible. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. No,
yeah.
I'm just so honored to be on here, and I really appreciate it.
the rolling joke at the moment is it's just my sister and my mom listening, but we're still young. But yeah, being one of the help, there's probably actually hopefully people listening that are like, Joe, I'm here. So, but we will grow.
We'll share it as well. So I'll get a copy of you and we can share it on our channels and everything. So
okay. And if there's anyone out there, please do the same, and let's spread the word and share Melissa's incredible work. And on that note, we'll talk to you later. Ciao.